Alaska within 3 days, or Blacktania would destroy 20 of their submarines. Borsky didn't believe him, and 3 days later, uh, the red phaser beams shot down from the sky and down through the ocean, and struck 20 Soviet subs, causing all 20 to produce 20 magnificent hydrogen-filled clouds. Realizing now the incredible powers of Black Mutant caused Borsky to take a handful of sleeping pills, but he was unsuccessful in committing suicide. The world cheered President Wilson for putting the Soviets in a compromising position. Everyone was shocked that this liberal president had finally developed some backbone to stand up against a northern bully. And since he seemed to be able to keep the Soviets from wartime, and since he was able to keep the Soviets from wanting to first strike America, the world began to hail him as the new Abraham Lincoln. Realizing that he was making Newton think he was possibly the Black Mutant, the mutant tried to act nice by telling the world that he was going to get rid of nuclear arms within the next year. But 2 days later, it was realizing that he was making Newton think he was possibly the Black Mutant. The mutant tried to act nice by telling the world that he was going to get rid of nuclear arms within the next year. But 2 days later, it was May 1st. The Black Mutant saw that Russia was marching its missiles through Red Square, still making him angry that they were still showing force. Because of this, Wilson Mutant appeared on worldwide TV saying, "I just saw Borsky still showing his weapons through Red Square because he still did this. I'm going to have the Black Mutant march 2 of his robots through Red Square carrying banners telling the Soviets to halt all missile testing by disassembling all their warheads, plus let the Jews and political prisoners return to Israel. And if just one Soviet KGB pinko commie bullet is fired at one of the mutants' robots, I, President Robert Monroe Wilson, will order the Black Mutant to utterly destroy, and lay waste the entire Soviet military machine, including its civilian population," shouted the President Wilson with an insane Black Mutant smile on his face. Hearing that, this caused the Soviets to get ready for an attack from America. And in America, so threatening was the president's statements that the United Nations ordered to have Wilson assassinated. Meanwhile, in Red Square, 2 robots beamed down in the heart of Moscow with some banners saying, "No more Soviet antagonism in Afghanistan, no more lies, no more military terrorism." Seeing this infuriated and frightened Borsky. One of Borsky's own men walked up to him and asked, "Should we first strike US now? Is time?" "Is time," shouted Borsky. "Black devil or no black devil, we shall launch what we have planned for." Borsky walked over to his phone and gave the order to destroy the U.S. And in America, right as the United Nations were about to fire an exocet missile into the living room of the White House, they got the word that Russia had just launched a first strike against America. "No," shouted the leader of the UN. "It can't be. We have been so nice to the Soviet Union all these years. Suddenly all of New York City and all of the East Coast went dead from a magnetic pulse. All New Yorkers went screaming through the streets, that realizing what the power loss meant. Out in orbit, Mutania observed what was going on. Newton said to his crew, while sitting in his throne, "The Black Mutant did this. He has caused Russia to finally press the button. My crew, arm phasers, lock on phasers to every missile that gets in range of the US. Destroy everything that leaves the Soviet Union, or leaves the ocean, or leaves the sea around America. And in the sea, the missiles. Oh, and in the sea, the missiles that were leaving Soviet subs off the coast of America were quickly destroyed as they left them. So powerful were Mutania's beams that the missiles were disintegrated without exploding. The missiles Mutania missed Blacktania pecked off. The Black Mutant beamed aboard Blacktania, spotted Mutania from Mutania's phaser beams. Then, as Mutania busied itself by destroying the Russian missiles, it was taken by surprise again from the Black Mutant. The Black Mutant fired a row of photon torpedoes into the heart of Mutania, almost destroying it as bad as last time. A few minutes later, Mutania was drifting around Earth again. The Black Mutant was going to fire again to completely destroy Newton, but feared that Mutania may flare up and destroy the Earth. Realizing that the Soviets could still fire on the US, the mutant beamed down into the White House and smiled as the reporters crashed down the doors of the White House in the hopes of asking him if the great asked him if this great version he knew by the this and asked him if this great person he knew by the name of the Black Mutant would show himself and win medals of honor for stopping the first strike delivered by Russia. The mutant smiled and said, "Well, the Black Mutant is kind of shy. All he requires from Earthlings is just plain simple worship." Worship? The reporters asked. "Yes, simple, yes. Hey, the Black Mutant just stopped the evil empire for you. If it weren't for the Black Mutant, you would all be a bunch of simmering, fried skeletons now. You owe him your life and attention from now on." Everyone felt the mutant should receive honors, but they hoped and prayed that Wilson was joking about worshipping the Black Mutant. In Russia, Borsky paced back and forth in his bedroom, shaken from the realization that the realization that the mysterious alien had left his country totally open to an American attack. In Washington, Wilson Mutant suddenly beamed away from all the reporters that were asking him questions, then materialized right in the bedroom of Borsky. Borsky screamed when he turned around and saw the Black Mutant looking at him in his totally black mutant form. "Hello," said the mutant. "Guess what? I'll give you a little chance for you to run with your family and to get into a fallout shelter, because guess what? Since you grabbed my balls a couple of weeks ago, I haven't been feeling very well. And I'm going to destroy Moscow. Did you hear me?" "No, please don't," cried Borsky, begging on his knees. The mutant walked up to him and hissed evilly as he patted him on his head. "I thought I would just tell you that before I killed you." The Black Mutant started patting Borsky on the head so hard that he broke his neck, paralyzing him. "Help, help!" yelled the mimic. "Help, help!" yelled the mimicking mutant from Borsky's panicking cries. A few hours later, after the mutant had beamed back aboard his ship, The robot captain of the Polaris sub was fighting his crew as he tried to make his way with the key to launch the missiles into Moscow. The robot killed everyone that got near it with the deadly karate-type blows. It also carried a gun in its hand and fired at everyone who tried to shoot at it. The robot was like an expert gunslinger. A few months later, the Polaris had all its missiles headed for the heart of Moscow. Borsky was wheeled into an underground hospital when the first missile hit. Each missile carried 50 megatons. "This can't be happening," he shouted. Moscow was incinerated totally on the first hit. All those in the underground city were shaken to the ground by the powerful blast. The second blast caused sand and debris to fall out of the ceiling. The Muscovites went running and screaming through the tunnels as the powerful explosions kept on going off, making the crater that was once Red Square more and more large, making it larger and larger. The Soviet Union was no more when the last H-bomb hit. This next story I'm about to read to you is called Mutanium Makes Platinum, which I'll read some other time. Okay, this next I'm about to read to you is called Mutania Makes Platinum. Mutania Makes Platinum coming up. Okay. A couple of days after the Soviet Union lost its Moscow headquarters and was now totally defenseless, the whole world was sending signals out into space to thank the being known as the Black Mutant. On Earth, no one realized that the Black Mutant was now standing in the White House as the president. The President Mutant appeared on worldwide TV and told the world that the Black Mutant required only one thing for his reward for destroying the northern bully that had the world in terror. What is it? What is that? Asked an excited vice president. President Mutant smiled and said evilly, "A human sacrifice." "You're joking, aren't you?" asked a laughing vice president. Everyone in the world wasn't laughing. The President Mutant had a serious, angry look on his face. He turned and showed his teeth evilly as he looked at the vice president. The mutant wishes to view someone die before his eyes at midnight tonight, or he will totally obliterate one of your populated cities right off the face of the earth. Is that clear? A human sacrifice. Everyone began to hope and pray that that wasn't going to be a reality. We won't have anyone sacrificed. We won't have anyone sacrificed, shouted a woman in the audience. You'll be the first one to be sacrificed, smiled the evil mutant with Wilson's face. No, shouted the crowd. If not, shouted the mutant, then this will happen. Suddenly there was a bright flash of light. A few seconds later, a great explosion lit up the horizon that shattered windows in the Capitol as a huge fireball began to grow out in the east. Everyone began to scream and run about in terror. An hour later, when the people in the area calmed down, the mutant told them all that the mutant had fired a photon torpedo into the Atlantic and said that the mutant would fire one at New York City if they didn't have that woman sacrificed at midnight. And while the whole world was now in the terrifying hands of the Black Mutant, in orbit, Mutania was totally repaired from Blacktinia's devastating attack on it 3 days ago. On Earth, Obakoba, Jeff Long, Sheena, and Doug Davis beamed down into Hollywood and found a record producer. The producer was terrified of what the president had said and seemed to be down and was thinking of committing suicide. But Newton saved the day by beaming down into the White House as one of the president's guards and asking the mutant. He beamed down as one of the president's guards and asked the mutant president, "If you are such a terrific president who got the Black Mutant to destroy the Soviet Union, then why can't you now get the mutant to not fire on the Earth? Are you weaker than the evil, stupid, insane Black Mutant?" When Newton said that, the mutant wanted to kill him. Right when it was, Newton asked it, "Gosh, Mr. President, you sure love the mutant. Are you two lovers?" That kept the mutant from attacking. "No," said the mutant. "Then why do you defend him so? Are you really just afraid of the mutant? And if you are, can't you stop him from sacrificing this poor girl tonight?" "I'm not afraid of the Black Mutant," shouted the stupid, insane mutant in Wilson's form. "Well, then, why don't you stop him from destroying the world? Can you? Or are you so weak and he's so strong that you can't stop him?" I'll stop him," shouted the insane mutant. "Very good. Stop him if you can." And Newton left the mutant. The mutant called the sacrifice off. "Wow, I can't believe how stupid that mutant is," said Newton to his two crewmen. "Hey, where is everyone?" asked Newton. Callisto told Newton that most of his crew wanted fame and glory like the Beatles. He told him that they went to see if they could make a profit out of the songs from their past and Earth's future. "Plagiarism?" asked Newton. "No, the crew feels they aren't plagiarizing because the people who have written the songs haven't been born yet," said Callisto. A few hours later, after some producers heard the songs the crew of Mutania had played for them, they immediately wanted to know the name of their group. "Mutania," said Doug Davis. "And who is the leader of the group?" asked one of the excited producers. "Newton," said Sheena. "Where is Newton now?" asked another one asked. Deciding whether or not to release the other songs we composed," said Jeff Long. A few hours later, the music from Mutania was being heard on the radios of L.A. By the time midnight came, there were news flashes all over America about the rock group Mutania. After hearing 2 songs from Mutania, people demanded to buy the album. 2 days later, the Black Mutant became shocked that wherever he went, he heard music from his future being played all over the place. When he heard that the music was coming from the new Beatles known as Mutania, he became furious that Newton's crew should be plagiarizing and getting the credit for songs that had uh, they stole from unborn uh, greats. After seeing how his crew was enjoying the new found fame, Newton got carried away with it and acted like he was the leader of the band. But when people really asked for where they had come from, Newton couldn't lie. He told them that the music they were playing was from outer space and from people and space creatures who weren't born yet. Everyone thought Newton was joking, and it wasn't long until Mutania was playing in concerts with millions of albums being sold in record stores throughout the nation. The Black Mutant became violently angry that Newton and his crew should get so much attention over the fact that they were becoming famous by stealing the unborn's hit records and albums. So angry did the mutant become that it wanted to get in on the act that with its robot crew. The Black Mutant quickly went to work going to producers and playing the hits its ship contained. But the Black Mutant was so insane that the music it had stored in its computer, in its ship's computers, yeah. The Black Mutant quickly went to work going to producers and playing the hits its ship contained. But the Black Mutant was so insane that the music it had stored in its ship's computers was very lousy, depressing, horrible sounding music that made the average earthling want to commit suicide. And all the musical hits that it did have on his ship, Mutania had already released on albums. A couple of months went by, and the crew Mutania had finally ended up as the greatest rock group the 20th century, and as the greatest rock group of the 20th century. And when people finally realized that they were really from outer space, and telling the truth that they didn't write their music, they still got all the recognition and adoration. So famous and popular did Mutania become that they even starred in movies and cartoons. Throughout the world, there were Mutania fan clubs, Newton wannabes, and Sheena lookalike contests. All of this infuriated the Black Mutant. So much so that while Newton and his crew were at a publicity meeting, the Black Mutant challenged Newton to a rock concert duel. Everyone was terror-stricken to see the Black Mutant, to see the Black Fiend in its